It's time to discuss the final piece in a three-point lighting setup, the backlight. The primary purpose of a backlight is to separate the subject from the background. Sometimes we're so focused on what the key light's doing that we forget about what's happening behind the subject, and they can end up blending together and not look very good. So there's a number of ways you can use a backlight to separate the subject from the background. One way to do this is to light the subject. If you place a light above and behind the subject, then it will create a nice light on the top of their head and shoulders. This is often referred to as a hair light since it more or less lights up the hair and makes it look pretty nice. Another way to separate the subject from the background is to simply light up the background. There's so many ways to do this depending on what type of film you're making. Music videos and vlogs are going to look a lot different than short films and documentaries. It's up to you to decide how you want these to look and how to set them up. In many cases, a backlight is simply a practical light, like a lamp, street light, TV screen, candles, and so on. Sometimes though, these lights aren't bright enough to really do anything, and so you can actually use other lights to make these lights appear stronger. In many cases, multiple backlights will be used to both light up the background and light up the subject. Like key lights and fills, your backlight can be pretty much any kind of light. In fact, if you're using sunlight, if you film when the sun is going down, not only is it a pretty color, but you can get some really nice backlight on your subject and make your outdoor shots look pretty darn good, maybe even cinematic. Now, what happens if all you want to use is a backlight? Well, I think then that would make it a key light, right? It's just positioned behind the subject. Man, that just got really confusing. So you can get some interesting effects when using just a backlight, like a silhouette. Silhouettes occur when the light behind the subject is brighter than the light in front of the subject and it's really spread out. Sometimes we get silhouettes unintentionally when we're filming in, say, a hallway and there's an outside door at the very end of the hall. In this case, the lighting usually looks pretty bad. If you want to create a silhouette, then just make sure to do it intentionally. Make sure the light source is diffused over a large area and that there's really no light in front of the subject. Okay, that's a lot of information, so let's review. The third light in three-point lighting is the backlight, and its purpose is to separate the subject from the background. You can do this by lighting up the subject, usually with a hair light, or lighting up the background, or both. You can get some pretty cool looks by just using a backlight, like a silhouette, where the subject is in front of a really large diffused light. So that completes the three-point lighting setup. The key light is the primary or main source of light. Fills can either add light and fill in or soften shadows, or it can remove light and make those shadows really pop. Backlights ensure that your subject doesn't blend into the background and creates a nice separation. When these lights are used together or separately, you'll see a massive difference in the quality of your film. So now it's your turn to get out there and start using them.